O próximo orador é de outro parceiro do nosso ecossistema, que é a Checkmarks, com quem trabalhamos também há vários anos e onde temos auxiliado clientes nossos a implementar, em alguns casos com grande dimensão, processos de SecDevOps. Portanto, damos agora as boas-vindas ao Sebastian Aguilar, Security Solution Architect na Checkmarks. O Sebastian vai partilhar connosco como prevenir o malware na perspectiva da segurança aplicacional. Sebastian, go for it.
Okay, nice to meet you, everybody. Thank you, Redshift, to invite us to this event. It's a great event. I hope you enjoy. Last week, I was talking with Jose about my presentation, and he told me, no, guys, I need something that directly to the technology. This is what I did, right? I hope you enjoy the presentation. So, Checkmark is a company for application security, and we basically try to prevent any vulnerability that you have in your software, right? So let me, okay. So I want to start explaining how we develop software, because in the past, when I started to work on 2004, we developed monolithic application and everything was in a very simple way. But now it's getting more and more complex, and one of the complexity is on the code, right? Custom code, a lot of open source library, microservices, API. Who don't use that kind of things? But also, when we develop, we don't develop in just writing code. It's much more than this. We have DevSecOps, we have the software supply chain, repositories, pipelines, a lot of things, development tools, okay? Everything is packaged in containers, ultimately. Yes, we know that we have some of brave men that are working with virtual machines, servers, all these things, but mainly we are moving into containers and Kubernetes, and lately we go to the cloud, okay? Again, this is the way that we are developing software now. One of the problems is we have supply chain attacks. That is very easy for the attacker to have that kind of attacks, right? Yes, you can scan the ports, you can find vulnerabilities in your software, blah, 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 but this is very simple, right? For example, Log4j. Do you remember you suffered that one? Yeah, probably yes. Remote execution code. Everybody runs. I remember that Christmas, spending with one of our customers trying to detect those for Java. Or this other one, that I love that one, with xset utils. They take the time to get into the repository to inject kind of specific code with a key to open the door inside of many organizations, okay? So these are just an example of malware that we inject in the code, right? This is supply chain attack. Just some numbers, okay? We need numbers, and probably we need to get used to this increment of attacks. Supply chain attack is here to stay, and they are here to be used by the attackers. And we need to be sure that we are preventing them on our software development, okay? And we are in 2025, right? The year of the AI, right? Who don't use AI? Okay, fair enough. So we have a good use of the AI, generate code, generate emails, improve efficiency. It's very easy to use it, we are coding in English now, right? But we have an abuse of the AI that is the supply chain and the production attack. So it's very easy for anyone to get those code, those attacks, inject using the AI, right? So the AI is an accelerator for those kind of attacks. This is the point. From a hacker perspective, this is a timeline of the new technology, okay? We introduce the technology and say, okay, this is great. Let's try to use. Let's start to work with it. Perfect. Now it's a buzzword, right? Everybody talks about AI. If you don't have AI, it's like your tool is another one, right? It's the BIM, the SSH. Well, okay, fair enough. Now you have early adopters and business adoption. Okay. you get into your business the AI in many different ways, okay? And we have, sorry, no, I want to go back. Sorry. We have hacker abuse, right? The hackers start to use it and try to get advantage of this technology in many ways. One of the good things is, probably you listen many times that a teenager get attacks on company using just the AI, writing, attack that. Okay, fair enough, perfect. We need to be aware of this, right? We need to be sure that the AI is working with us, not is working against us. And this is part of the vendors, part of the company that we're developing security application to wake up and adapt to that, right? Then the software security team start to protect, start to be aware, and be sure that they are protecting against those attacks, okay? And later, standards, compliance, probably some of you suffer DORA on these days, right? It's not the same, but could be. So this is the timeline from a hacker perspective that we have for a new technology. We are here, hacker abuse, right? We are in that point that the hackers are getting use of this, okay? Probably if you check the social media, the newspaper, you can see all of this news of the hacker attacking that, using AI to get into the victim, to get into our software tool chains, in our supply chain, just to be sure that they are getting value from that attack. Okay? Now, this is a supply chain focus on the part that we have in software development. For example, we have vulnerabilities in our software, right? When you write code, hopefully could be safe, but the reality is that it's not so safe. Also, most of the let's say, some of the developers use AI, right? And one of the things that they, when they get generated code from the AI, probably they inject vulnerabilities. But the most important things, and particularly here that we are talking about malware, is AI hallucination. When we get AI hallucination, the AI offers us a package that doesn't exist until some hacker create for us injecting malware in any way, right? But this is a problem because we say, right, the AI tell me that this is a package and I can inject in my code, doesn't exist until I get that. Okay, and then this is a real attack, it's not a vulnerability. And this is why this is a problem for a developer, okay? Credentials, secrets that we include in the repository that we left, right? Even those credentials for testing an environment could be dangerous because someone, imagine that you have a malware, you open the door, and then you have another door open that you can get and jump into those servers, okay? Compromised repositories. This is a great way to get into the company, okay? Talking about dependencies, not only the vulnerabilities that came, the CVEs that we can detect on those vulnerabilities, but also malicious code. We saw some examples at the beginning of the talk, right? And at the end, insecure configuration, right? So we are seeing here some type of vulnerabilities that could affect to our security company. But imagine that you have all of them at the same time, right? How many doors have you opened, right? You have great walls with the firewall, you have great wall with the proxy, perfect. But what about the doors, right? What about the windows? This is the problem that we are solving here, okay? Now, how Checkmark Ones is trying to help here. Another buzzword that we are hearing this morning is unification, right? We unify the dashboard to see all the engine that I showed you in a sec, everything together and correlate it among them, right? So the CISO has a unified view. They know where they are for every application, right? For every line of code that we have deployed in our servers, okay? But also important is how we prioritize them, how we can be sure that we are working on the most critical things, and this is where we have the ESPM. Help us to identify those vulnerabilities that bring us the best security posture. In other words, instead of solve low or medium vulnerabilities, we try to go to the critical, the highest, the most impactful ones, right? And this is where we get a lot of information from Checkmark 1, okay? We analyze different parts. We analyze the code, we analyze the supply chain, libraries, repository, and the cloud, okay? So how Checkmark can help us to fight against the malware, right? Particularly, we have a package, a scan for malicious package that our company, one second. I want to go down here. Here, that our company is scanning all of this package every day to identify them and be sure that the database is updated and you can get the best intelligence to identify them and cover them and be sure that you are not under attack. Okay? Coming back to the slide. Okay? This is one of the key points. But also, we identify that we don't have any vulnerability in our code with SAST. Right? Be sure that the door that the attacker opened with the malicious package is not the door open for another part of our software. Right? This is important. Also, we have SCA, that the most important thing is that we can provide information to identify which are the ones that are impacting us and which are the most important ones that we can to remediate. Right? This is on SCA. And also, we are including AI security. AI security, we are helping in 3 main topics. One is prevention, right? So we can protect in ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot, but also we help on the remediation with Security Champion, providing the developers the advice to be sure that they can remediate these lines in the best way possible. Okay? And lately, we are including what we call AI triaging, that basically we are removing those false positives that is native on the tools of the static analysis, and we are trying to reduce as much as possible. This is pretty new. It's the latest news that we have in terms of AI. Okay? Right. We are able to protect the code, supply chain, cloud, but one important thing is to be sure that we reach the developers, right? Be sure that we are scanning on the time. Be sure that we are getting this security to the most important actors, CISOs, security team, and developers. And this is why we have a good implementation and good integration with all the life cycles, right? Probably some of you saw these tools, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, all of them, okay? So we are able to bring the security to the place that they need the security, okay? And the last part, for me, this is key, right? We talk about a lot of things, about security in application, about malware, about AI. But the idea is that we have to be sure to identify and measure the KPIs where we are in terms of security. We need to be sure that this identification, what we identify, be sure that we are fixing them, okay? And also, bring the security to developers. Bring the security to the security team. And at the end, all these 3 topics build the trust that the whole company has in the tool at the end of the day, right? This is why the idea is to build that trust that the CISO can go to anybody and say, okay, my company is secure. We have the numbers,